Yes, welcome again. As usual, this is MJB, and we still continue talking about CPC. And what I want us to understand is the competency-based assessment methods. The assessment methods that are used in competency-based curriculum seem to be different from that of 844. Remember, the 844 system had one common assessment method, and that was the written assessment. It was rampant in any given class or during examinations. But as we understand, the exams in CBC are referred to as assessments. And now we have the assessment methods. Remember, assessment can be done in class. And as we understand, there is formative assessment and summative assessment. But now, the various methods that are used for assessment include the following. First of all, we have what we call questionnaire. A questionnaire is an assessment method that is used in CBC. It consists of a list of questions on various aspects of a person's situation or issue. The respondent is required to give honest opinion or views. It may be used before teaching to find out how the learners have understood, or whether the learners have understood. And that is done during a teaching, and after it has been issued to the learners, then the characteristics, the experiences or knowledge will be able to be understood, and may also be given to learners to gather some evidence of understanding, the evidence of whatever they have learned, to show whether they have understood or not. There is another assessment method that we call assessment rubric. An assessment rubric is a set of criteria to evaluate a learner's performance. They consist of a fixed measurement scale and detailed description of the characteristics for each level of performance. They are commonly used to evaluate learners' performance with the intention of including the result in a grade for reporting purposes and teacher accountability measures. That is what we call assessment rubric. Another method is the method that we call question and answer assessment method. How does this one work? Question and answer is a dialogue between individuals based on asking questions that simulate critical thinking and bring out ideas. There is another method that we call portfolio. How does it work? Portfolio, this is a purposeful collection of learners' work samples. Here, the learners' work samples are collected, learners' self-assessment and goal statements that reflect their progress. All those are collected. It is also a collection of evidence assembled by learners to demonstrate competency in a given area of learning. Another method of assessment in CBC is what we call authentic task. When we talk about authentic task, what should come into our mind is that this is an assignment given to a learner in order to assess their ability to apply knowledge and skills to the real world. Remember, here the learner is expected to apply knowledge and skills to the real world. It is called authentic task. Whenever this task is given to a learner, it is expected to test whether the learner can apply the knowledge they are gaining from learning or from school into the real world. It is practical, kind of. Another assessment method that we should understand is what we call oral and aural. We have two here. There is oral and there is aural. These are questions posed verbally by the teacher or pre-recorded and played to the learner. The ones which are posed verbally are called oral questions. They are just posed verbally to test whether the learners are understanding whatever they are learning. And the oral one is pre-recorded on a digital device so that the learners can be tested whether they understand as they listen from a digital device. Another assessment method that we should understand is what we call checklist. When we talk about checklist, what should come into our mind is that the checklist contains a list of attributes of an individual's behavior, and it requires the facilitator to carefully observe and tick whatever behavior is portrayed. The teacher makes a summary and draws a conclusion at the end of the lesson. Learners too can be helped to make their own checklist to check whether they understand a given strand or substrand. So a checklist is just a collection of questions or guidelines or attributes of behavior that the teacher or facilitator is expected to check as they tick if the learners are understanding whatever guidelines that are given in a checklist. Then the facilitator is expected to put a tick. Even the learners themselves are given checklists in their textbooks to test their understanding. Some textbooks have got checklists, like English textbooks have got checklists. After every strand, there is a checklist that will guide the learners to test their understanding by ticking where appropriate. Another assessment method that we should have an understanding about is what we call written tests. Remember, a written test was the very common test in 844 system. But in CBC, it isn't the only option. Written test, what is it? They are mainly of two types. Remember, there is free response tests and choice tests. Free response tests, these are tests that the learner is expected to just give responses freely. And the ones which are called choice tests have got some choices that the learners are expected to choose from them. They are, in CBC, they were called, in 844, they were called the closed-ended and open-ended questions. So the closed-ended questions are the ones where you are expected to choose answers that are given from the list given, and open-ended questions are the questions where you can give as many answers as possible, and there is no any answer or choices given. Another test method, or what we call assessment method, that we should understand is what we refer to as learner's profile. What should come into our mind when we talk about learner's profile is that this is a summary of the teacher's opinion on mastery of competencies acquired in a given level. It is constructed by the teacher using information obtained from observation, and now we should also understand that this one, the learner's profile is a summary of the teacher's opinion on mastery of competencies acquired in a level. It is constructed by the facilitator using information obtained from observation schedule, learner's journal, checklist, portfolio, and involvement in project. So the facilitator observes before adding the information in the learner's profile. So the learner's profile is expected to give that information in general. Another method is what we call rating scales. What should come into our mind when we talk about rating scales is that the rating scales allow teachers to indicate the degree or frequency of the behaviors. Remember, there is a given frequency or degree of behavior portrayed by learners in every lesson or while in school. We also have the learners portraying their skills and strategies displayed by the learner. All these are recorded. Terms such as never, always, rarely, and usually are used. The use of descriptive words, such as always, usually, sometimes, never, helps to pinpoint specific strengths and needs. When we talk about these rating scales, for example, we can use the ones we are given like below expectation, there is meeting or approaching expectation, there is meeting expectation, and there is exceeding expectation. Those are the rating scales that are referred to here. Whenever you talk about a given rating scale, using these descriptive words, you are supposed to give evidence of whatever you are rating a learner. If you rate a learner as below expectation, so you have to be specific by giving evidence of why you are saying the learner is below expectation in a given learning area or in a given question. So you use the words like always answers questions correctly, usually writes well, sometimes the learner is able to answer questions. You can also talk of never helps to pinpoint or never does this and all that. So those words are called descriptive words, and they are used to give evidence whenever you are rating the learners using the rating scales. Another assessment method that we should be aware of is what we refer to as quizzes. Quizzes. Remember, these are knowledge tests, especially a competition between individuals or teams as a form of entertainment. Remember, quizzes are brought in class to make it more lively. It's a form of entertainment so that learners can enjoy learning. They are questions, quizzes. They can be written, they can be verbal. So they are brought in class as a form of competition to make learning more enjoyable. And then there is what we call journal. What is a journal? So the learner keeps a record of his or her personal feelings, thoughts, and experiences daily. It also shows the activities carried out in a day by a learner. So the learners are supposed to fill their personal journals every day to show their progress, their personal feelings, their thoughts and experiences. That is also another way to assess them. The way in which they fill the journals can tell their progress. How are they progressing? What is their improvement in each and every day? Another assessment method is what we refer to as project. What is a project? A project is a set of activities implemented within a time frame. It should have a clearly stated purpose and set of objectives. Learners identify a need in their community where they can provide services based on what they have learned. So that is the purpose of a project. That, as I have just stated, the project is a set of activities implemented within a time frame. Remember, it's implemented within a time frame, and it should have what we call clearly stated purpose. There must be a clearly stated purpose for a project, and set objectives. And learners identify a need in their community. There must be a need in a community, which means the learners are expected to solve a problem in a community using a project. Whenever they do a project, the main purpose is to solve a problem. Another assessment method that we should be aware of is what we call anecdotal record. Anecdotal record. What is this? This is an account of an event in a child's day. Reports, photo, and drawings may be used to describe a factual way, or in a factual way, the incident, its content, and what was said or done by the participant. So an anecdotal record is an account of an event in a child's day, the way a child's day progresses in school. Whatever that takes place, there could be photos to show evidence, there could be reports, drawings, and some descriptions that can tell whatever the incident that learners have experienced in a school within that day. Lastly, there is another method that we refer to as observation schedule. When we talk about observation schedule, what is this? It outlines characteristics and behavior that learners manifest during learning. The facilitator records observations made on the behavior of a learner. Not necessarily one learner, but each learner. So it is also another method of assessment, that it outlines characteristics and behavior that learners manifest during learning. So it is the role of a facilitator to ensure that they make observations for each and every learner, so that the records can be kept for reference. Thank you for your time. Remember to subscribe if you have not. God bless you.